My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay, this is Kirk again. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, founder of Herbal 411, and the message for today is don't kill yourself. But when you go out and exercise, you always need to plan a point of attack or a line of attack as far as when to start, when to accomplish or the goal to hit, and then maybe the next goal after that, but that's up to you and your coach. And if you don't have a coach, you might want to consider getting one, because it's too easy to tap out and say, well, I don't have any time today, or I'm too busy, it's not that important, I'll get it this weekend. And I can think we keep on pushing back our expectations or our chores, our duties. And that's why I always tell my patients to put it on a calendar. And even though you're supposed to hit four to five zone 2 exercises a week, and then 1 to 2 zone 5 exercises a week, at least that's what I suggest. That's what the data suggests to help with longevity and turn around mitochondria. That is difficult, I will be honest with you. And it's important to just have a scaffolding and a project or a timeline, and then try to do your best to attain that timeline or maintain it. Now, if you do balls to the wall, go ahead and put your cardio on maximum and you're sweating like a banshee and you exercise great, then good for you. You're probably hitting zone 5s without a problem. A lot of my patients are average Joes and Janes, and I have to help them move forward. And a lot of us have 50-hour work weeks. We got to take care of kids, or dead tired when you get back from work, or the night before was poorly slept and you're super tired. So it's just a framework. So the zone 2 and the zone 5 is just a suggestion. And there's people that fall all along the lines of elite performers that really hit it hard and they can get to zone 5. And they probably already get to zone 5, especially my cyclists. And I love the cyclists because they have the equipment nowadays to measure FTP, wattage, and they can plan it. Marathoners are pretty good, but it's a little bit hard to translate wattage, but they can do it with time and distance. And I got to tell you, those two guys are those two groups of people, athletes, whether they're young or old, very obsessive compulsive, and that's okay. I remember taking care of a couple of marathoners back in the 90s at Central DuPage Hospital. They bring in their books, putting the mileage down and performance, and then hydration. And I would admire the fact that they kept this, but I think, and I wondered, is that a personality disorder? But no, it's not. It was because back then everybody was shooting for sub 3s. That's less than 3 hours of a marathon, which is crazy. But not that everybody got it, but I digress. The thing I wanted to talk about today is it is important to have a scaffolding of activities. And if you haven't done anything, don't worry, but let's get into my office. Or if you don't have a physician that's helping you, a personal trainer, a physical therapist, or a coach, please consider seeing me at my, I can see virtually anywhere in the world. I can also see my clinic in Hoffman Estates in person, and I can take some measurements. I can actually go with some patients to hike or see what kind of wattage that they're putting out, power they're doing in the gym. But it is also important to recover. So this is a nice study that broke it down. I mean, the U.S. Is always hard in pushing what you're supposed to do as a minimum. And I believe that the USPSTF has suggested that you can at least get 150 hours of moderate to vigorous activity a week. And whether you do it 2 times a week, 150 divided by 2, or you spread out that 150 to 5 days a week, it roughly comes out to like 30-minute exercises. And a lot of you are probably looking at me thinking, 30 minutes, that's my warm-up. And yeah, it has to be practical. But the suggestion is, and the data shows that if you do have a goal, make it 150. And as far as how you break that up, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's the end result is still that it helps with reducing cardiovascular mortality and disease, meaning a heart attack or stroke. So if you bunch it all up into 2 days because that's all you can afford, fine, but try to always target per week 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity. Now the question is, if you're not measuring with a Fitbit or a Garmin or an Apple, I forget the fancy Apple Watch or anything, then you're only using perceived exertion. I warn you that perceived exertion, like I just went to work out today. I was going to do 15 minutes to 20 minutes of attempted zone 5. I'm still working my way up. I don't hit the heart rate that I'm supposed to hit, but I'm getting there. Hopefully by Christmas I'll get there. But if you think that you're exercising, challenge yourself with watching your heart rate, because today to load my heart before I started hitting the weights, and I was going to do all out 15 minutes of hell is what I call it, I decided, I'll just go ahead and do rowing. So I started to row, but I thought, you know what? I've had about 4 days of a break. I was too busy, so I didn't exercise for 4 days, and I miss it. But I also was guilty yesterday thinking, oh, damn, I didn't exercise again. So today I'm busy. I still have a lot of things to do and patients to see or talk to. But I was on my way home and I saw Plant Fitness. I pulled in and I said, okay, I'll do this before I eat my lunch, which was at 1, my first meal of the day. And I decided to hit the rowing machine. And then I decided, you know what? I feel great. And I preloaded with creatine and protein powder because I was a little bit hungry. So I'd hit the rowing machine and I set it at, if you've never heard of it before, there are high intensity interval training routines that in the data, Dr. Inigo is a exercise physiologist, I believe, but he's a big cyclist, and he set it at 4x4s, meaning 4 minutes of intense, 4 minutes of rest, 4 minutes of intense, 4 minutes of rest. You have 4 cycles of that. That is supposed to get your heart rate to zone 5. So I decided, let me give it a try. I'll do that, then I'll go into my 15 minutes of hell. So I thought when I did my 4x4, I actually made it 4x3x4 because I thought 4 minutes of rest was too much. And I wanted to get my heart rate up. Well, I was definitely perceived exertion. That was tough. I felt it in my shoulders, felt it in my forearms, felt it in my lats, felt it in my glutes as far as the technique of rowing. And I don't like cardio, but I thought it was to set up my resistance stuff. And after I finished that, I was really beat. I was sweaty. And then I went over to work out with the weights and my usual 15 minutes of hell, no break, just go bang, 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 movement to movement to movement to movement. And then I was done that. So the rowing took me about 20 minutes. The resistance took me about 12, I think, or 15. I forget what it was, because I was exhausted at the end. And when I put my results on my phone and calculated it, man, I didn't even hit, I'll show you here, I didn't even hit a great heart rate. And I thought that rowing was putting me into zone 5 or 4 maybe, but I was like zone 2. And then the exercise that I was doing with my weight routine, my 15 minutes of hell, I thought that was simple, but I was actually hitting zone 3 to 4. And so even with, I'm not saying I'm a gifted athlete, but I'm pretty good with athleticism and knowledge of exercise and rest. But bottom line is, it's important to have a coach. This can be your coach of accountability, because if you think you're using perceived exertion and thinking, oh man, I am totally tired, and that was a great workout, that got to be zone 5, and then you check, it's like zone 3. So it's okay to not attain those goals, but it's important to know what you have to do to get there. If you think that you're working out hard, I challenge you to take some measures. And you don't have to get a Garmin, they're expensive. I get this for my hiking excursions when we go off trail or high altitude. You can get a Fitbit. I did a video on this. This is pretty decent, especially with regards to heart rate. I'm not sure if this is accurate when it comes to sleep stages. This is accurate when it comes to sleep stages, but for your purposes of just measuring your heart, get this. And then for the purposes of, if you're a newbie and you work out 3 days a week, that's fine. But my suggestion would be make it count, use heart rate, not perceived exertion as your determinant for how aggressive to work out. And you don't need any breaks unless you have a heart disease problem, for which you probably should get clearance by me if I'm your doctor or a cardiologist. But if you don't have a heart problem, push it hard. It's, zone 5 is really uncomfortable. And I thought it was there, but it's only zone 2 to 3. Anyway, so I'm working on it and, work in progress, and I'm fine tuning as I go, but what I wanted to do, I digress all the time. Sorry, rabbit holes are terrible with me. But the importance is when you do exercise aggressively, take a break too. So that's why my guys who think that they're doing zone 5 like all the time, you shouldn't. And I've done videos on hypertrophy training. You really have to have at least 3 days of downtime between the max lift if you want to have hypertrophy. And that comes out to 2 days a week of intense. But back then for hypertrophy, it's not intense heart rate, it's intense lift to 1 repetition maxes. And it's a different story, but either way, you have to have a break in between the aggressiveness. And during the zone 5, since they're so easy, well, you don't really have to have a great break, but it is important to time yourself. It is important to pace yourself. And it is important to do a little bit of both. The data says for longevity, mitochondrial health, metabolism, zone 2, zone 5. So if you have questions, you can either post some questions on the comments down below, or you can go to my clinic or my patients, get Healthy and send me a message and we'll work on it, or else I'll time you. But you have to have downtime to recover. And sometimes the recovery includes hydration. The recovery always includes fuel. This is going to be some of my fuel. I had the protein beforehand with creatine in it, and creatine is safe. I just go with 5 grams every time I use it. This is mackerel I found at Woodman's. And the content, this is a protein hit, and it has omega-3 oils, but the content of protein is 15 grams. That's pretty decent for the size, in addition to my protein powder. So we'll probably fine-tune protein talks later on, but that's not important right now. If you have been waiting around to exercise all summer, all spring, and now you've gained 20 pounds, and here you are, or you're diabetic now, and your glucoses have shot up, that's okay. Don't feel bad, but get started now, a little bit at a time. And if it seems like it's too arduous a task, we'll just chunk it down to maybe 3 weeks. Or 1 week. 1 week, just get out and do something, walk. And walking isn't necessarily zone 2, it's definitely not zone 5, but walking is a beginning. And I think that it's better than not doing anything and feeling guilty. And then that'll make you eat more. And that'll make you hunt for those candies that are coming up in 6 weeks. So walking, and I always have talked about my hikers begin with just starting at the door, your front door, going with your backpack and your boots and your walking sticks, yes, in the neighborhood. You look goofy, but you're practicing and getting upper body. You go out 15, you stop, no matter where you are, turn around and come back. That's 30 minutes. You do that 5 days a week, you've done 150 minutes of something. The question is, how high did you get your heart? And that's not important for beginners. For my advanced folks, yeah, push it hard. And you should know how to push it, but also rest hard. And when you do rest, hydrate. Now this is, I used to take in Noon for my electrolytes. This is carbonated water. This is electrolytes. I found that with Noon there was too much sodium. I was taking this and in preparation for Mount Whitney over the spring, and I noticed when I would sleep, especially when I was doing a lot of sweating and hydrating a lot, I would have this pounding heart, and my brain, I could feel my blood vessel pounding, and I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was anxiety. Then I stopped the Noon, and then it went away. So I've switched over to my new fave, electrolytes, which have less sodium, but everything else, including a couple of things like taurine. I'll probably do an unboxing of this one of these days, but I need to hydrate. I need to rest, meaning that tonight I'm going to probably hit the bed early, read in bed, make sure I go to sleep, make sure I don't stay up late, because it's too easy to do work and then stay up late and then watch Netflix because Ahsoka's out, if you're a Star Wars fan. Yes, I'm a nerd, but that's part of the rest part. So rest, refuel, and rehydrate, very important. They're just as important so that when you do feel well rested, attack the next day. So hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas about how to articulate what you're supposed to do on exercise or with exercise on your calendar. And if you are totally screwed up and you don't know how to even put it on the calendar or start, or you're injured and you don't want to turn on fibromyalgia or your bad knee, then you have to get help. Don't do anything. And listen, I'll be doing one of these videos too. If you go back to your old equipment that's in the basement, just under some covers or in the corner with cobwebs, be careful, because it didn't serve you before. I've got a lot of equipment. This is my studio, my basement, and I've got a lot of equipment that way. I'm going to show you me taking down my power rack because I'm not using my power rack anymore. It's too boring, and it's sitting next to all the bikes that I don't ride. So would I bring those things out to depend on them to push me to the next level? No. If you tell me just I have to do it for 4 weeks, maybe, because I'll get off the unhappy equipment use after 4 weeks. So it's a tangible endpoint. But I would not rely on just using that piece of equipment that in your garage or in your basement that's been there forever that gave up on you before. Yeah, the equipment gave up on you. So it's not you, it's the equipment. And that's the problem with home equipment. But it is convenient. For the next time, please consider subscribing. I'll talk about equipment. I'll talk about fuel. I'll talk about protein. I'll talk about different options for exercise, including a hike. I'll be taking some folks on a hike in the middle of October, 3rd week, around the Elgin area, Crystal Lake area. So if you like hiking, follow me on my YouTube channel and I'll announce it, or on Facebook, Dr. Rick Hiking Excursions. So stay healthy. Don't wait till the last minute. Get started, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.